So Parsha Vayechi, we have this very dramatic moment where Yosef comes in with his two sons, tries to wants to get a bracha from Yaakov, of course, and in doing so, in trying to get the bracha, and Ephraim, of course, for Ephraim and Manasseh, Yaakov starts off first with a very incredibly emotional type of appeal, really, to Yosef, and he says, "Vani bevoyim padin meisal ayrochel beretz Canaan b'derech bod kivras eretz avoy Efrasa verk borsham b'derech Efras hi beis lachem." So, as Rashi illuminates what Yaakov is explaining, really at the very end of his life to Yosef, literally maybe his last days, he says to Yosef, I know that all these years you're holding something against me. You're wondering in your mind, why couldn't I do the most minimal appreciative thing to your mother Rachel? There I buried her on the road. I didn't give her the dignity of really a proper burial. I didn't take her into a regular spot. I left the mamish. I couldn't even take her into the city. And I want to tell you, it wasn't because the rains. It wasn't because of it was not inclement weather. And so basically, he's saying that all these years, as much as that Yosef and Yaakov, of course, obviously the close relationship that they had, and even the years that Yaakov was in Mitzrayim, there was something, and obviously Yosef manifesting such love and appreciation and taking care of Yaakov in Mitzrayim, and all of the outward clear commitments that Yosef made. Still, Yaakov knew that there was something inside of him that was troubling Yosef. And Yosef had this question on Yaakov, which incredibly, despite the fact that certainly Yosef could have asked Yaakov this question, Yosef could have said, "Tati, how come you didn't take care of mommy the way I think you should have? What are you doing, burying her just on the side of the road over there? This is the way you take care of one of the great women in Klal Yisrael." So, but he didn't do that. Just showing us the strength of Yosef to just hold this all inside. But amazing that the Gur Aryeh points out this is a very emotional appeal, and of course the answer to the question, and the reason why Yaakov ultimately reveals this and make sure Yosef can move on in his life for the rest of his life, knowing that it was not an insensitivity, it wasn't just a mistake that Yaakov made, that Yaakov did it in a calculated fashion because he knew that Klal Yisrael needed Rachel on that road. They needed to see the kever as they were going to Golus, and the Rachel Mavak al Baneh, and that this was a special schus, that the connection that they had to Rachel in praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the schus of Rachel praying for them. There seems to be somehow, spiritually interconnected to them seeing the kever Rachel, and them seeing as they go into Golus to see that that image of this incredible that place where this incredible lady was, this lady who had so much concern for Klal Yisrael, and that was his chus. Rashi quotes the pasuk. So there's going to be a return. There's going to be a galus, but there's going to be a return, and that return was the schus of your mother. So I did it al pi adibra, I did it al pi nevuah, based on the fact that this is the way it needed to be for the sake of Klal Yisrael's whole future. So literally understand that your mother really played a role, and as also other midrashim point out, the famous tefillos of Rachel, but your mother played a critical role in the perpetuity of Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael would have been, God forbid, taken into exile in the Rahman al-San. That could have been it. But Yeshchalu Pulasech, that they're going to return. So this was the emotional back and forth that really more is one way, that Yaakov basically was opening up his heart to Yosef. So the Gur Aryeh points out, and he says incredibly well, it seems like this is such an incredible burden off Yaakov's shoulders. It's an incredible message to Yosef of him now knowing why it was that this happened, why it was that his father buried his mother just on the side of the road. Why didn't he do it earlier? Especially, you'd imagine that, especially when he asked him for a favor earlier in the parsha, that would have been the better time. Here, that I'm asking you for a favor, and I couldn't even bury your mother in the right place. So that would have been, but he waited till Yosef came with Ephraim and Manasseh to get the brachas. So what's going on? How come he waited? So the Gur Aryeh answers incredibly. He says, because at the end of the day, he says, there's it's bad enough that I have to give you bad news. I don't have to give it to you earlier. I have a right to wait for the last possible moment to give you bad news. What's the bad news? The bad news is that there's going to be a galus. The bad news is that we're not going to be able to stay in Eretz Yisrael, that much forever, as was designed originally by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If we had done everything right and kept the mitzvos and been strong, we never would have gone into galus. We would have been eternally in Eretz Yisrael. So the horrible phenomenon of galus, I have no right to reveal that to you early. I have to wait for the last minute. I do have to tell you. Okay, says the Gur Aryeh, but I have no right to tell you that earlier. So again, it's an incredible message for us, because certainly if you look at the emotions of what's going on here, you've got Yosef living this life of this in the back of his mind, this concern or this question or this real troubling issue. I'm sure he suppressed it, but at the same time it was there. Bottom line, it was there. And Yaakov says, I know that it was there. It doesn't seem that he was wrong about his assessment. His assessment was correct. That Yosef was bothered. Why did you not bury my mother properly? So here's the kasha that you have. And the chance to finally clear the air and ask for mechila. You'd think it would be such an incredible unshackling of emotional baggage that would be a tremendous benefit to Yosef to be able to deal with earlier. Okay? And wouldn't that be the overriding emotion? With that I know my father took care of my mother properly, it was done with the proper respect, and B, to know that my mother, look at the position my mother has in Klal Yisrael, that she's the force to be able to bring the Jewish people back to Eretz Yisrael. Isn't that an incredible message to hear? But apparently with all of those positive aspects of letting Yosef know earlier, the overriding feeling would have been pain, that we're going into Golus. This message, and it's not that he's not going into Golus, it's not it's hitting his descendants hundreds and hundreds of years later. But you know what? It pains me. I learned that it's something that works on me, and it overwhelms all of the other emotions. That's really when we think about Golus. We think about what place we're in. It's hard to have that kind of feeling. Things look up pretty good right now. Well, things are very good for Yosef at that point as well. He was viceroy Mitzrayim, but in terms of, if we really appreciate what Golus was, that awareness would have overridden any other positive emotion that was going on. And even though there was something deeply, in a sense, separating Yaakov and Yosef, Yaakov knew that if I tell you that there's going to be a Golus, that's going to bring you tremendous sorrow. That's going to be the overriding feeling, and I can't do that. So certainly it's an incredible lesson for us in terms of, as much as Baruch Hashem, there's a lot of good things that go on, and a lot of opulence in the world, and so many, so easy to get caught up in just the hustle and bustle of life, and then saying, Baruch Hashem, we have everything we need. At the same time, to have that constant focus, as the Ramchal tells us, that we are in Golus, and the Shekhinah is not where it needs to be, for us to really have that throughout the year and on a daily basis, as Gedolim, Chazal tell us, that's what we have to do. That's all I've taken Chatzos for that concept of focusing on the Golus. But we should try to take this Rashi to heart and keep that thought in our minds constantly.